Hello and welcome to the Forestry Briefing, Forestry Journal's monthly roundup of the latest stories from the world of forestry. Hello to everyone watching, wherever you're watching, and hello to everyone listening to our podcast version of this recording. You find us in the comfortable environment of the Forestry Journal office, which we rarely visit, but we've come to today to offer you a sort of a look back at the year in forestry and for Forestry Journal. That's what we're doing today, and also to wish you, I guess, a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and probably introduce ourselves as well, John. Remember, that's very important. Not everyone knows us.
Not everyone knows us by now, I suppose. I'm John McNee, editor of Forestry Journal. I'm joined by Jack Hawke, deputy editor. And Jack, shall we, I guess, well, how would you sum up the year in forestry, really? The headlines, the top stories?
Well, there certainly has been a lot of IPs.
I feel like we've been talking about
a lot of fun to talk about in these briefings, to write about.
We've certainly spoken about it a lot in the briefings. I'd quite appreciate it, if we get through one episode of the briefing.
Goodness, I know.
In fact, there hasn't actually been anything in the last month, I don't think.
No, other than our interview, which is for those that may have picked up, we had an interview with Andrea Dole, who's actually now can't remember her exact title, but she's essentially head of the Forestry Commission's lead in terms of eradicating IPs and any other pests. And a few things came from that, but one being that she made the case that the current strategy is effective and it's working essentially. So that's had a bit of reaction, I think, since then from a lot of people agreeing with that, a lot of people questioning that, but it's certainly worth digging out the interview because we did have to work together, but I think it was very good to speak to her and get her perspective. But yes,
I suppose the best way to judge is if we can get through a few more episodes of the briefing without any more IPS news, no more restrictions on planting exports, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
And no more announcements of any further outbreaks. That would be good to see. We've also had, what else this year? I suppose the sycamore gap tree, that was this year,
That was last year.
That was last year.
Yeah, it was last year.
Well, we've had
developments
this year with it, there's been a lot of things have happened.
Yeah.
We've had people brought up on charges. I think one person had shared the same name as one of our contributors. That was interesting for them, certainly. And we've had the announcement of so many
49 saplings
taken from the tree, going out to various good causes. We've had various updates about a loss. I think that's a story that's carried through.
Yeah.
We had APF 2024. Of course.
Yeah, it was great.
Brought many headlines from that, and many interviews and many videos, which we've shared across our social media and in the magazine. Numerous product launches, equipment. Machinery,
We've been on our travels. I've been to Slovenia.
Oh,
I've been to Slovenia to see the Uniforest's new manufacturing plant. You've been to, you certainly got the lucky trip going to Finland because it was the John Deere launch. So
yeah, we've done an awful lot.
A lot going on this year.
And we thought we might, as we're doing a look back, not just at the year of forestry, but a fun way to do it might be to look at our favourite features.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's really what Forestry Journal magazine at heart is about. It's about big feature stories, really shining in, putting an in-depth focus on all the different aspects of forestry in the UK and abroad. So what we've done, I've picked my top 3 features. You've picked your top 3 features.
Yes, exactly.
Neither of us know which are which.
Yep.
So how do you want to work this?
Well, I think as the editor, you should have the privilege of going first in the guessing. So we're going to try and guess each other's. That's very key here, and then we'll just chat from there. So I think, why don't you start and guess one of mine?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and what I'm not going to guess is that either of your features were reports on KWF, on APF, or any of the other big events that we've been to this year. I don't think you would pick any of them, although they were obviously definitive and packed full of content. I think you'll have gone for something a bit more focused than those. And this might help me. This might be indicative of where your heads at when you're picking your favourite.
Okay,
I'm going to say you picked our look at the LKT machine
choice.
in the north of England. Would I be right about that?
Shall we do one at a time there, or do
Yeah,
we do
yeah.
two? Let me look at my list here. Correct.
Ah.
Yes. So good. 100%. Yes. Yeah. The LKT 120. Now LKT is a brand which isn't particularly common in the UK. Many of you will know. In fact, it doesn't have a dealer here now, and it did at one point. I'm now trying to remember. I think Osborne was a name mentioned, but it certainly did in the 90s. And I think if I remember how this started, I was just, as I do, go through the archive to find pictures to share on the socials, etc. And I came across this brand, and I think at first, oh, actually, do you know what it was? It was from Interforce, another one of our trips back in 2020. I was doing similar. I was going through our video archive to do some reels, and I came across this machine, and it was yellow and green, and I just assumed it was an HSM because that's the colours of HSM. So I assumed that, began to put it together and all that. It was just like it was a clip from that working at Interforce, nothing too exciting. But then I looked at the logo and I was like, I don't recognise that logo. I don't, not one I know. Looked a bit further, turned out it was LKT. From there, I then found some pictures in the archive. One of them happened to be an LKT, which we had featured back, I think, back when we were Forest Machine Journal. It's going that far back. So, I mean, you're talking the best part 20 years. Being used by a Ronnie McVicker. Long story short, it turned out this same LKT is now being used by Joe White, a contractor. I think that's a fair description of him. A contractor based in the northeast of England.
He contacted us, right? After
seeing the picture, he contacted us and said,
Facebook,
I'm still using this LKT, basically.
Yeah.
Do you want to come down and see it for the day? So, yeah, so from there, from basically a video picture to this, we went down, we found out a bit more of the story. He had been working with Ronnie McVicker. I wish I had it in front of me now, the story, to remember the details, but he'd worked a bit with Ronnie McVicker. He'd liked the LKT. Ronnie had asked if he wanted to buy it. Ronnie sadly passed away several years ago now. But his widow asked Joe if he was still interested in the LKT. I think there was a bit back and forth, and eventually decided, yeah, let's take it and do it. So, I mean, they use it for a lot of, because it has the double winch system, they use it for a lot of tasks. As we saw when we were there, felling, using it as a kind of a winch when you're felling oversized trees, oversized sitka, I think it was for us, which can't really be done by a harvester, so it has to be hand cut. So yeah, I mean, obviously, from those archive pictures to now, it's a bit more battered, it's a bit more bruised. It in some ways looks like something from a Soviet kind of era film type thing, it's very much just, here are the parts, here's what it has to be, but I mean, it still worked almost perfectly.
Interesting that they've been able to keep it going and keep getting the parts and keep getting it serviced and all the rest, despite not having sort of presence in the UK.
No, totally, and I think
sort of testament to how well it that technology works. Yeah,
exactly. And I think as a result of that, LKT actually got in touch directly with Joe, and now he has a line to them in Slovakia. Yes, Slovakia. Oh my goodness, if it's Slovenia, I'm going to get hate mail here, but I think it's Slovakia. So he certainly has a line to LKT now. So listen, amazing, a great story, everyone loves machines, everyone loves old machines, everyone loves big machines.
And a good picture story as well, and good for good video footage as well. We got that working. A little outing for the drones.
Yeah, for our rest in peace, but it's certainly been one of our most successful videos this year, so well worth checking out on YouTube because it's amazing to see actually. Yeah,
and a good point to raise is if you've got a unique piece of machinery that's not really been covered, certainly not any time lately, get in touch with us, because that's how it works. People get in touch with us and then we go and see.
We don't know every machine that's working out in the woodlands of the UK. We just don't. So if you have something, please let us know.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to pick one of mine?
So, and I realise I've probably not prepared as well as I can, because I actually only have two in mind, so you may have to help me with the third one, but I think I'm going to go quite a recent one, because you've had quite a good year, as I say, going to John Deere in Finland, and you've done other things too, which I'm sure will spring to mind, but I'm going to go a recent one, and I'm going to say your feature rather, on Jazz P. Wilson's apprenticeship programme.
Oh, close.
Okay, so it's not that one.
It's not that one.
I didn't make the top 3. Okay, sorry, Jazz B. Is it another? You could give me a clue. Another apprenticeship?
No. It's but what is on my list is
it Jazz B's 60th
Jazz
anniversary?
B's 60 years of service. Yeah, which in fairness touches on some of the training stuff because we covered this both during our same trip, and that was a good trip for us. Being that we got to visit the factory in Dalbeattie and talk to Billy and his son Ian, and be there for the sort of the symbolic, handing over from one generation to the next, one MD down, and it was good for us because Jespi Wilson, obviously Wilson's a very, very well-known name in forestry. Long-time supporter of Forestry Journal, on the back cover of just about every issue, I think, advertising. But and someone we've covered, various different machines and clients and services and all kinds of and someone we've seen it at different events, but never really got in depth about the background of their history and it's a family company, what that family's been through, how they started out, how they've developed and discovered so many things that we didn't know.
It's like a tragic, beginning, which we didn't really realise. I'm sure if you know the Jazz P story, you'll know it, and it's probably on the wall, but it has like family tragedy, loss of life, etc., which kind of let them down.
Led to John and Billy just having to step up and guide it through its progress and where it was, its origin from a company that really, or that became very well known but became very well known for county tractors and servicing them and preparing them for forestry, to now with all the different things it's doing, right up to its latest developments with Mantis and its focus on training, developing the next generation of engineers, and still providing so many services and so many different kinds of equipment for which people are aware of. That's the kind of story that I really like to. When you've got 60 years of history, there's typically quite a lot.
Quite a few stories, quite a few tales, as we found out. So I think that's a good choice. Mm-hmm. So am I getting half a point for that?
I'll give you half a point.
Okay, so it's one to half a point. Okay, so shall we move on, because obviously time is pressing.
I'm going to guess Georgie Taylor.
Do you mean Georgia Herd?
Georgia Herd?
Yes, well then you're correct. Georgia Herd. Sorry, Georgia. Georgia Herd.
Oops.
Who's Georgia Taylor? That's an interesting question. I'll search that later. Yes, Georgia Herd, who is a firewood producer, works for her family company, Andrew Herd Hardwood Logs, down just north of London. We went down for the day. We spent time with her, and what her kind of the gist of our story is, as well as being a firewood producer, and all that entails is she is quite rapidly and quite quickly grown a big social media following, especially on TikTok and Instagram, where she actually explains what she's doing. She does videos where she explains what she's doing. She answers questions. Mm-hmm. Essentially, she tries to take firewood and sort of the firewood side of forestry to different audiences, which I think is great. And I think it's great to see, people who are, who, and I think she said by her own account, people who you might not associate with forestry or firewood. She said that herself. Actually doing it and actually being involved at the coalface, as it were. So really good, really interesting. And they also had a brand new Porsche K710 firewood process, supplied by Jazz P, actually.
Of course,
the kind of the 6 degrees of Jazz P Wilson. But so again, it was really, really nice. We spent a lot of time there, got to chat, and it was a really good story. Just how even her story is one thing. The company story, like many companies in firewood and forestry, is great. Kind of very small beginnings. Mm-hmm. I think it started with her dad, just essentially after the Great Storm, if memory serves right, or one big weather event, just cutting down a few trees and going from there. So really, really good to see, and quite different as well from something.
A bit quirky. I do like to see people successfully bringing forestry to the general public who don't really know what it is, don't understand how it works. It is still a bit of a mystery to most people, and that she's doing it in a really accessible and innovative way. And yeah, more power to her.
Excellent. Yeah.
Georgie Hurd.
Georgia Hurd. Georgia Taylor. Goodness, who is that? Right. Your second story. So you're only getting half a point for that, by the way.
I know.
Fair.
So we're on what?
1.5 to a half. So if I get this, we get to 2, 1.5 each. But I think I might struggle because my mind has gone blank suddenly. What have I read about you? I'm going to say, and I'm going to forget the name as well, but I'm going to say our farmer boy who had converted much of his former sheep farm to a forestry site using grants, using clever planting. I had Sitka, I had Douglas fir, and all those things. And you might help me with the name.
Broadmeadows Estate.
Yes.
Alec Telfer.
Alec Telfer, yes.
You are correct. Yeah, that was another good one. Well, I mean, it's a lot of what we've been talking about, and it's pertinent this year. Farming has been big in the news, and farmers are not happy for various reasons. Are farmers ever happy? I don't know, but
it's not for the forestry boys to say, is it?
This year they've really not been happy, but for a long time, one thing they've not been happy about, is I think we have in the latest issue of Forestry Journal, we have a story about some of the processing things that have been happening, and we have I think it was from Wales, was a farmer with a placard saying less trees, more cheese, because food is more important than trees. Forget timber security. Food security is what's important. There's been everyone's been advocating, well, not everyone, but certainly a lot of people have been advocating for farmers to diversify, to give more of their land over to forestry and make that work, because if they're impoverished, food production is not necessarily working for them. And we need more trees, and maybe that would be a good thing to do. And there's been a lot of pushback about that, a lot of resistance. And this, going to visit Alec Telfer was great, because it really tackled some of those, got to address some of those issues from being a sheep farmer, solely focused on sheep farming, to turning a huge proportion, I think 265 hectares of his land over to productive forestry, and everything that entailed. And for him, it's not a mission about biodiversity or rewilding or just trying to give back to nature. It has to make money. Exactly. It has to be profitable. And he spoke through us about the struggles and the challenges of working with Forest Direct to draw up a plan that would actually make it work for him, which involved having 54% Sitka spruce, and still at the time that they were applying for it, being able to get into the carbon, the carbon code, the woodland carbon code, which I think now you would not be able to do with that level of Sitka spruce, and only 10% of broadleaf forestry. And he sort of addressed some of those difficulties and those challenges. And I think what he's done there is really great. Just going around the site itself, you can see how it's developed over the last few years. The road network that's been put in, and how canny they've been about...
Public path network as well.
The public path network, how canny they've been about the grants that they've gone for, and how they've made it work, and what they plan on doing with some of the land, including things like adding holiday cabins and things like that, to make sure that it continues to be a legacy that he can hand down to his children. I'm curious what he thinks about the latest inheritance tax stuff.
That's true.
But because I'm sure there's quite a lot of value in that land. But But despite the fact there is still sheep farming will continue to happen on it, it's not agroforestry. He was quite
Very adamant, yeah.
Adamant about that.
The animals are not near the trees.
They are two completely separate things, although they're on the same land. But that's and the piece is called Striking a Balance, and it's Broadmeadows Estate. And if you haven't read it yet, I suggest you go back and look at it.
Also known as That Farming Boy with the Sheep Farm, as I
Yes,
very eloquently described him. I'm still taking the points, so 1.5 each. So this is the deciding round.
Okay. Sticking with farming, then I'm going to pick the woolly pigs.
That is a good story, actually. Kind of wish I'd chosen that, but I've not.
Oh well.
Yeah, we've done a lot of agroforestry this year. So yeah, that is the Woolly Pig Farm in Ayrshire, which was the winner of the Best Agroforestry Award at the Scottish Agriculture Awards.
Yeah.
That's chosen by us.
Judged by Forestry Journal.
Yes, exactly. But alas, no, it was not that.
Okay.
You mentioned it, and you dismissed it out of hand.
Did I? What? The only other thing I had on my list was your Uniforest trip, because you got to go to sunny Slovenia. And
Yes, that was great. 35 degrees or whatever it was. Yeah, I worked hard that trip. No, my one of the favourite features I've done this year was the KWF coverage.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Because it was quite. Obviously we know APF is kind of changed what that show is, but KWF in many ways is still your kind of big forestry show.
Mm-hmm.
You still had the big names. You had John Deere showing off their new machines for the first time, I think. Rotney showing off a new crane. You had Ponce. You had all the kind of big names are there. Because it's still set in a woodland. It's still very much
Silvertech machine.
That's what I was going to get to.
Right, yeah,
My
yeah.
kind of favourite was probably, of the kind of big machines, was a kind of new but old machine from Euromatic, which is a kind of small Danish company, who for years have been Silvertech engineers. And what they've done is they've taken an old, an old 8324, which was the last harvester built by Silvertech before it, obviously, unfortunately for many people, unfortunately perished. They've taken that, they've adapted it, they've built their own, and it's called an 8230TH harvester. Stunning kind of striking black coloured leather seats, like really kind of real premium feel to the machine. And anyway, they were showing that off at KWF, and I just thought that was an interesting story. Kind of shows how popular a lot of these brands are in forestry, even when they are sadly no longer with us. They still resonate with people, and I think that was a great example of that. And but yeah, I just thought I know I'm kind of cheating a wee bit because that was both of us, but I just thought we got a lot from that trip. I thought the coverage was really to our own horn here, but I thought we got some good coverage from it. I thought there was a lot.
It's easy enough.
It's
easy enough, isn't it, when you go to something like the KWF where there's so much, you can barely get around the whole circuit.
Surface, that's the thing. We did a lot, and you see our videos and so on. We did an awful lot from it, but we barely scratched the surface. So I just thought it was a really good trip. I thought we got a lot from it, and I'm certainly looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, KWF.
Yeah, okay.
So if I get this, then I win. Basically,
okay.
The stakes now.
Good luck to you.
Good. Oh, okay. Does it mean it's a hard one then? Oh. So I am. I think in lieu of thinking of anything else, or struggling to think of anything else, I'm going to have to pick your feature from the John Deere launch event.
You're right.
Yes! Come on!
So this was big news. This was the launch of the H series from John Deere, and I got to go to Finland to see the reveal of the machines. And that was really good. But the highlight, I think, of the feature was getting to talk to so many people back here in the UK who had tested the 1270H harvester because it had been extensively trialled.
Yeah.
This is a machine really optimized for steep ground forestry working, and getting to talk to so many of the people who had contractors who had used it and talked about what impressed them so much about it: the stability, the crane power, the 3-pump system, which allows them to drive, to work the head and the crane all at the same time. I feel like I learned, when you talk to the operators, you learn a lot more about the machines and what's important than you do, I think, just going to one of these events and
Exactly, reading the PR.
and reading the PR stuff. So it was a great privilege to get to go, and I saw absolutely almost nothing of Finland whatsoever, because they just take you from the hotel straight to the event, and then effectively back on the plane. There was they took us to the forest.
Did you have like a 10-hour bus journey at one point?
Yeah. There was a big bus journey, but you don't see it. There's really nothing to see. And from
There's
the road.
There's nothing to see in Finland. That's not the official.
From the road in Finland, you just see trees. Yeah. That's all there is. And yeah, I got to go to the Finnish Forestry Museum, which was good. Very, very close to the Russian border, which is only mildly concerning. And got to see the John Deere factory. But yeah, the highlight was definitely the new machines themselves, and hopefully we're going to get to see them out in the field in 2025.
Surely we want to see trees. Surely that must have been the highlight of your trip. I'm just trying to catch you. So anyway, that bottom line is I won. So what does that mean? Am I now editor? Is that how it works?
I guess you get to pick what you're most looking forward to in 2025.
Oh wow, what a prize.
Yeah.
Goodness, that's been thrown at me there. What am I looking forward to in 2025? Will I just be cliche and say more of the same? That's a good question, John. I think I am looking forward to seeing the development of our conifer planting, particularly in England, because it's no secret that we aren't planting any conifers. That's going to come back to bite us very soon. I think, to be fair to the FC, whether this is as a result of changing government or whatever it may be, I think there's a lot of good noise about wanting to get in top of conifer planting. That's kind of the kind of caveat that a lot of that will be put. There'll be a few the banning of spruce planting in large parts of England kind of throws a spanner in the works in some regards. So yeah, so I think for me, what happens with regards to conifer planting, because this year has seen a lot of debate. We saw the kind of obviously that anti-conifer report in Scotland, which wanted subsidies taken away from conifer plantations completely. So there's been a lot of debate, a lot of flux, but I think we're getting to the point where we've done so little of it that it won't be long before that comes home to roost. So
yeah, it'd be nice to see some good news on planting, some good news on skills training.
Yep, which we did have good news on planting this year, in fairness, with the figures. Obviously, it goes back to what I'm saying, when you kind of look beyond the kind of headline number. Scotland decided it was just mostly kind of broadleaves. So yeah.
Some good news on timber and construction would be nice.
Yep.
Yeah, some increases there, and I guess just more. It would be nice if we could get more. Obviously, we do this, but just more permutation in the mainstream media or zeitgeist about the importance of forestry. In our January issue, you can look forward to coverage of the latest Confor conference at Westminster, where I think Lord Duncan described forestry as having a Goldilocks moment, whereas it is the industry, it's just right for addressing so many of the big issues that are being faced both in the UK and around the world. And the question is when people are going to wake up and realise that. Wouldn't it be nice if 2025 was the year
of forestry?
Happened? The year of forestry. That'd be good, yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Well, been a pleasure.
Yes, it has been another great year for Forestry Journal, and I thank so many of you for subscribing to the magazine, for following us on YouTube and various social medias, and for, of course, watching and listening to the Forestry Briefing. And I hope you will join us again for lots more in 2025. In the meantime, have a very Merry Christmas.
Indeed, and a Happy New Year.
Thanks a lot.